Okay, we've got an E39 here with a suspected water pump failure. This is the 535. What we're seeing is a little bit of coolant splashed around the engine, and if you look at the water pump there now, you'll see that that pulley is rotating and wobbling, and it really shouldn't be doing that. There's a squeaking noise there. To be fair, it's hard to tell where it's coming from, but I'm pretty damn sure it's going to be there. Now if you look at the fan here, you can see that it's getting covered in coolant, and we have had the coolant light come on a few times and the temperature did go up. There's evidence here of it leaking. It's not immediately obvious to see where it's leaking from because it's splashing all over the place and even puddles up here. But if I come and give this water pump a wiggle now, I mean that really shouldn't be moving that much, I'm sure of it. So I think that's got to be the problem, and somewhere along there the water's getting out. But as you can see right there at the bottom now, it is leaking, so I can't really think of anywhere else that any coolant could be coming out from other than the pipe. So we're going to take that apart now. Now the first thing I'm going to do is take the fan shroud off, because I need to drain the coolant, at least from the radiator. It should be down here somewhere, but I can't see it yet, so let's take the shroud off and let's see where it is. It looks to me like the only thing holding this on are these little black clips here, so I'm going to pop those out. They're actually rivets, I think, so I'll pop those out and see how we get on. Okay, the fan shroud seems to come off relatively easy. What you got is you got two rivets like this, with a small bit in there. So you slide that out first and then pop the rest out, and you've got one of those here, and you've got one of those here. Now the only thing holding it in now is the expansion tank. There's a hose down there, so in order to get at that I'm going to remove the air filter and probably the mass sensor as well. There's also a pipe under here. Now you take that off there, but I think be careful with that, that looks very fragile. So now we take the air filter off. I also removed this plastic part here because it seems to connect the expansion tank to the shroud. However, I can't quite see how it's held onto the shroud, so I'm going to take it all off in one piece now. Okay, shroud is off now. Let's release that pipe down there, a little bit fiddly to get to, and also once you're done there, you've got a couple of connections at the bottom which are also very fiddly, so take your time with those. Now let's remove the shroud. I can't claim to have found the drain for the radiators, normally at the bottom there, but on this particular occasion I can't say I found it. But by releasing that pipe there, I did lose a bit of coolant, but I can't say I've actually found the drain yet, but obviously we're going to continue to look for it. Okay, fan off first of all. And I'll tell you why, because we've got to undo this bolt here, and I believe these reverse threaded, and it's just too fiddly with the fan in the way. So you've got 3 grub nuts to take that off, and I can't remember what size that is, but it helps, so I hope it does. Okay, we're having problems getting this bolt off here. So I've decided what I'm going to do, and I don't know whether I can get away with this yet. I'm going to keep it on and try and deal with that with the water pump off. So let's give that a go. Okay, we have a few more pipes off here. One there, one down there, and there's a lower one as well, I think. Now let's take a copy of this layout of the belt, because I'm now going to take the belt off. So that's how it should look. Okay, still having problems getting this fan off. The problem is just getting hold of this and being able to grip it. I can't use one of the bolts because it just undoes. Now what I'm going to try and do now is release this so I can get through to the bolts on the water pump. Just a piece of advice here, don't wedge anything underneath here like I've done, because this thing just snapped with the slightest of pressure, so I've got to replace that now. So don't try and wedge anything underneath this to jam it, okay, because you're just going to have to replace it. Okay, got the water pump off by undoing the bolts, which was a bit fiddly. Ideally I'd recommend taking off that tensioner, but it's got a strange nut in there which I haven't got at the moment, but I'll be looking into that because I'll certainly have to get it off. Now one thing I've got to be concerned about is these pipes here. They popped out and they're going to be damn fiddly to get back in. There's two of them, but I'll come back to that once I've got them sorted out. This has turned out to be a big concern. There's two pipes here. They join into the engine underneath and they attach to the water pump. Now they popped out. I've managed to get them back in, but my concern is the O-rings might not be in place and they might even be leaking now, and it's really shitty really, because it's all under these manifolds and there's no way in a million years I reckon I can get access to them. So beware of this when you do the water pump, because there they are, there's two pipes there, 1, 2, and if they pop out you could have a whole can of worms. But I've got to assume they're okay, and let's hope so, fingers crossed. These two pipes here, they have made me rather paranoid, because I've been using my camera to take pictures inside and I'm pretty sure they're back in the holes. I just hope no O-rings have popped out or anything. There's no way to operate on that without taking the manifolds off on the top, so that really is a bit of a nightmare. I managed to get them in and I just hope that's going to be okay. If I find out at the end of those they're not seated properly or there's going to be leaks, then you've got a massive job on my hands, so fingers crossed. Right, viscous fan off. That was a pain in the arse, and I'll tell you how I did it. I stuck an Allen key in that grub hole there and then undid it that way. It wasn't the easiest task, I must admit. This is reverse thread this, so out of all the things that I've done today so far, this has been the biggest problem. But stuck an Allen key in there and that wedged against the side, and that was enough to get it off. Okay, we're more or less finished here now. Just got to replace the pulley because it was a bit brittle and it fell apart very, very easily. I hope that's not going to be too expensive, but I wouldn't imagine it's going to be. The only real problem I've had is these two pipes running at the back of the water pump. I've just got to hope and pray I've got those in properly now. I did use the camera to take photos, I'm pretty sure I have. If I do have to replace the O-rings at the bottom of those, that's going to be a nightmare. I don't really know how that will happen. Now the water pump, the bolts holding that on were very easy to undo, so being an aluminium housing, the torque specifications on that must be very, very low, so I would advise anybody to check those torque settings, because you don't want to get that done. Okay, here we have the replacement pulley. I'm now going to install this, put the car back together, fill it up with coolant, and we'll see if it all works. Fingers crossed, eh? Okay, that was a perfect success. Everything has worked fine, no problems at all, and I have to say this is the easiest car I've ever had to bleed.